Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we have the great Vlad Kats coming back to us, second appearance on the show. And before we bring him on the show, let me just remind you that we're working on this project. This is my life's mission to make the world a happier place. And one of the ways we're doing that is getting videos where people just share in 10 seconds, 12 seconds, who they are and what makes them happy. And the idea is that when other people see those videos, they go, you know what? I could do that, because happiness is all around us, but people are looking at the shadows, not the light. I want you to look at the lights, send a video, donate it to the project so the world becomes a happier place. And one of the happiest people I know is Vlad. Vlad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be back. And I love that project. You will have my video.
Oh, that is awesome. And you know what's kind of interesting is when people see someone truly just sharing, no one has said, what makes me happy is buying a new car. No one's ever said that. And no one said, it's all about, like last week, it was a gentleman saying, what makes me happy is when I hear my grandkids' laughter. And it's like everyone can relate to that. So the last time we interviewed, you were at Keller Williams and you had the distinction of being the number one recruiter worldwide for bringing people into the Keller space. And so you are like one of the movers and shakers. But since 2020, you've moved to EXP
Yes,
and
sir.
you had 0 agents under you. How many agents are in your team right now?
I've been blessed, Umar. We're approaching 300. As of this morning, it was 284. So it's pretty fast growth. And yeah, just blessed to be around great people in my life there.
And part of the whole experience, whether it was at Keller Williams or here, I suspect in other parts of your life, is not so much, how can Vlad win? It's like, how can I empower other people to win? And through their success is, one, you probably get joy, and two, you get compensation as well. But it's always been about empowering other people, and the byproduct is you getting richer as well. True statement?
Very true. And in fact, uh, Umar, I've tried to live the other way, where I'm like, I'm going to win at all costs. I'm going to win at
Yes.
all costs. And it may have been my hyper competitiveness back as a young kid, and adolescent, adult, all of that. And I had a mind shift probably about a decade or so ago, where I realized that my purpose is to help other people win. And so I created a game in life that I call Everybody Wins.
I
Now,
love that.
everybody includes everybody, including me. And when I see other people win, not only does it give me great joy, but depending on the game that I've created with those people, I win one way or the other. And focusing on other people winning has been freeing.
Yeah, I think life is all about intent. Like a good example is when you have somebody dating and all their friends have found their partners and gotten married, they're left by themselves, they're super desperate, and any woman within a mile radius just says, "No, get away from me." And because the intent is about them, and then they just give up and say, "Oh, women suck. That's it. I'm not dating." And that weekend at the supermarket, they meet someone because the intent was totally different. They were just being themselves, another human being. And the same thing in business is your intent goes a long way.
And surrendering yourself for a greater good,
Yeah.
I think is a product of that, or is a byproduct of that. Like I've noticed, like when I look at, let's say, social media, or just like when I'm talking to people, there's so many people that are walking through life waiting for somebody to fill their bucket.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in life is that the only way to have your bucket filled is to fill somebody else's.
Absolutely. I
And
think very
once
much.
that clicked, it again, it's freeing. That level of simplicity, in my life, is freeing.
What's kind of interesting is, I can go get whatever I want practically. And that would feel good for about 2 minutes. But if I help somebody out in a small thing, pick up their groceries, help them get a house, or whatever it happens to be, from the smallest to the largest, the satisfaction I get out of that is like 100 times more than me winning whatever. I think that's how we're built, and we train ourselves to be selfish when we don't need to be. Is if we're generous and help everybody around us, the byproduct is you're happier, more fulfilled, and you just attract more good things in your life as you go along.
Amen.
All right, brilliant. So what I wanted to explore with you today, because you work with a lot of agents, you've been an agent, and at one level, real estate is a really simple business, except for the mindset piece. And that is the thing in almost every element in life that gets in the way. So what I wanted to do was a really fast round of, I'm going to give you my hypothesis where team leaders struggle, and give me an example of somebody struggling and how you help that particular agent. Don't name names unless it's Michael Schiff. And we're going to,
That dude never struggles. He's
yes.
perfect. He's yes.
So one of the areas is people go, okay, I'm a good realtor. I need to expand. I need to bring other agents in, and they make a mistake in who they bring in. They bring in the shiny object. This guy's a really high performer, and we want the numbers. I'm going to bring them in. Tell us about an agent that you helped that was doing that, where it doesn't work out well, and how you coach them to do better.
Umar, I've had the privilege of serving real estate professionals, being a real estate professional, and serving real estate professionals now for over a decade and a half. So, like, if I start naming, there's going to be a lot of people because,
Of course, so we're
like,
not going to name anybody.
right, right. So the challenge that you just described is an epidemic in the real estate industry, right? Like, no pun intended, and
Yep.
it's everywhere. And I think that where I come in into those types of conversations when I'm advising the people that I'm working with or have worked with, for me, it starts with creating a level of clarity and simplicity. Going back to your point, right, that this
Yes.
real estate business is very simple, that then almost eliminates the chances for making the mistake that you just described, which everybody makes. And the really cool thing about making mistakes, I know it's a weird thing to say, man. Really cool things about making mistakes is that you can actually look back at it and you can isolate what you did incorrectly rather than just talking about concepts in life, right? Because then it's like you don't have anything contextual to like
Right.
point to. In any case,
So
so what the challenge that you just described, what it starts with is lack of clarity of what of two things. One is, why do people join your organization and should join your organization? And then two is an ideal agent profile. Okay.
yes.
Okay. So very first thing, and this is critical. This is critical. The number one reason, I learned this a long time ago, number one reason people join your business organization, number one, not the only one, but number one, is to reach their financial goals.
Yep.
If anybody tells you they're joining for their number one reason is not that, our job is to inspect it, because the number one reason is that, and there's two reasons why people leave your organization, and they're all intertwined. One reason people leave your organization is because they're not reaching their financial goals.
Right.
And the typical example that I give is, think about the operations manager on your team or your administrative assistant. Let's call him Mike, okay? And Mike loves working with you, and Mike's, like, he's an advocate and all of that stuff. Let's see how long he lasts as soon as you stop paying him.
Absolutely. Not long.
Yeah. So Mike may still love you, but he's not reaching his financial goals anymore. It makes sense for him to leave. Okay. And he will. Second reason people leave your organization is they do reach their financial goals, but they don't associate their current success and their future success with your environment. So this is when you bring somebody in and you take them off the street and you teach them everything that they know, and now they're making 100, 150 grand. And then one day you come into the office and they're like, okay, Umar, I'm out of here. But you're like, man, like you've made more money than you ever made. Okay. Most likely that person, let's call her Susie. Susie is like, man, I made 150, but how much could I have made if I was on my own? Or how much could I have made if I was with my own team? Or Umar or Vlad or Mike is not great. Like I'm made at 150 in spite of them.
Yep.
And that's what typically happens with people. So when I sit down with a top performer who has a team or is building a team, and we look at successful, quote unquote, successful people that have left, right? And those that have failed that have left, they can usually just point very quickly to one of those two reasons. Okay.
Makes perfect
But
sense.
notice how all three have one thing in common, and that's their financial goals.
Absolutely. So going back to a team leader building a team, I think the first fundamental thing they need to know, and this is somebody looking from the outside in, having worked with a lot of realtors, is when you know who you are and what your values are and what you want to build, and not like what you should build because you went to this seminar and there was like a guru on stage, but when you uncover authentically who you are, that gives you a lens to look at the kind of people you want to bring into the organization. So talk around that. Like, how true is that statement?
I would say that's 100+% true, because and I think that all of us have fallen into this trap of pretending to be somebody we're not.
Yeah.
And I think it's uncomfortable sometimes for people to do their own soul searching, and it's actually not even like most people know who they are. They're just uncomfortable. They think that they should be somebody that they're not, and they
Yes.
think they should be that guru on the stage, or they think they should be fill in the blank, and they go through life. I was there, right? I'm recovering, shooting all over themselves.
Yeah.
And when you bring people into your organization, automatically you should all over them. Now, the values that you possess, okay, regardless of what they are, this is not a judgment call, right? This, like, they will spill, and you can expect them to spill, and you want them to spill into your business organization, okay? And so it just makes a lot of sense to be really honest. So, like, here's how it plays out in real estate, okay? Somebody's value, let's say, is uh, crazy work ethic.
Right.
Like, which, again, this is not a judgment call on values, okay? But like, there's plenty of people in life that are walking around with their value without being transformed or working with a professional like you, right? Like, of looking at it, like their value is like workaholic, 24/7, being on call, okay? And like, if you want to, the way I look at it, if I want to know somebody's values, I don't have to talk to them. All I have to do is just observe them,
Oh,
and I'll
absolutely.
form, right? That makes it simple. So this is where I see it all the time, Umar, in real estate. Somebody's work value is clearly like work, 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 work. And then they advertise an opportunity or a position for administrative assistant with the term work-life balance.
Yep.
I'm like, are you nuts? Like, and and they will interview people that clearly cannot keep up with them.
Right.
Who are they setting up for failure? Is three entities: themselves, their organization, and that human being.
Absolutely. So knowing yourself is critical. So one of the areas that are challenging for realtors is doing the activities they need to do. So as a team, we say, okay, these are the activities we need to do. And then some people don't do them. Then the team leader has to figure out how to handle that situation. So uh, walk me through that, because nobody wants to be the bad guy, and you're not being the bad guy. So you've got like this mindset that's not right. So take it away, Vlad.
Oh my God, this happens all the time, right? Because people get hung up on activities and performing the activities or not performing the activities. See, in my experience, people jump into action when there is a clear line between action and them getting what they want. Okay, and let me be clear, and them getting what they need. So
Yes.
team leaders or leaders of teams, right? Like people in leadership positions, because they don't get the first thing that I mentioned is that number one reason people join your organization is to reach their financial goals. As a leader, we must know what our people's financial goals are, because any action that they take or don't take is going to be in line with a goal, not a wish or a dream. So how does this play out? Somebody come, a new agent comes on the team, and you know, a lot of team leaders talk about standard. We have a standard of 20 contacts a week, or 20
Right.
contacts a day, or 5 contacts per day, whatever it is, right? They actually don't mean it's a standard, because if it's a standard, somebody who doesn't reach it, they should be removed. It's kind of like a guideline, or like
Right.
a wish. But that's aside. Hope I'm not being too cynical here. um, but uh, somebody comes on and says, like, okay, everybody does 5 contacts per day, and then an agent doesn't do it. Okay, well, the reason the agent doesn't talk to 5 people per day about real estate, which is a very simple, to your point, which I love, very simple action, because this business is very simple. The reason they don't do it 9 times out of 10 is because two things. One is they were never trained properly on how to do it and what that
Right.
actually means. Second is they don't see a direct link about how those 5 contacts per day get to them making 80 grand a year that they need in order for Johnny and Lucy to go to private school, and for their spouse not to have to work, or whatever it is that their goals actually mean, not what they are.
So let me challenge you there, because there's a
Please.
lot of realtors that see that direct connection. The more connections I make, the more money I make. There's math behind it. But because they're not trained, or because they have fear of rejection or whatever, they don't do that. And that comes back to the team leader to help diagnose and either help fix or find a resource to help fix it, or ask them to leave. But those conversations don't happen often enough, because the leader, from my point of view, has a responsibility. If I got you to join my team, it's I'm taking a bit of responsibility for you as well, to guide you in the right direction, to get the goals that you want to achieve despite yourself. So frame it, look at it from the despite yourself phraseology. Like, is that a true statement? And how do you navigate that?
I would change. So everything you said is on point. I would change a little bit of responsibility to a lot of responsibility. Because
Okay.
again, people join your organization to reach their financial goals. In a sales organization, that is almost always true. I hate to talk in absolutes. Okay, just given some of my beliefs, but it's almost always true. Okay, and as a leader of the person, if you're playing the game that I'm playing in life, that I know you're playing in life, is that my job is to make sure you win, or at the very least my job is to help you win, then you're taking a lot of responsibility. See, when somebody failed on my team, I failed.
Right.
It wasn't, oh, Susie didn't know what she was doing. It's like, oh, hold on a second, I failed in showing her the way. Okay, so to bring back to what we were talking about, is the leader, or even the manager. By the way, the term management is getting evilized in real estate space.
Really?
That has been my experience. If other people don't have experience, it's totally on me. But there's been so much talk about leadership that people forget about management. The management is a huge component of leadership. In fact, when somebody starts, in your organization and don't know what they're doing, forget leadership. What they need is a lot of training and management.
Yes.
They need to be shown what to do. They need to be told where to go. It's kind of like, when I had a personal trainer for getting my physical shape into shape. The last thing I wanted is to come in at 7:30 in the morning and have Johnny, real name, okay, have Johnny ask me, what do you think we should do today? Do you know how
Yep.
fast I would stop paying the guy? Okay. But I share with him my goals. Like I remember those conversations, like chronic back problems back from my rugby days. Like I wanted to be able to play with my kids and pick them up no matter what my age was and their age. And Johnny's like, okay, we're gonna work on core. And then I came in and he told me every day what I needed to do for those 30 minutes. There was no question and answer type of stuff.
Right.
There's just like do this and that. Okay. Now getting back to real estate. So like the first, I would say 6 months, somebody being on your team better be more management and training than leadership.
Makes
Okay.
perfect
Then like
sense.
now see if somebody starts working with me or a great team leader like Michael Schiff that I know brought up like jokingly when we were talking about it, but like, it's actually a really good example. See somebody like Mike who's been in real estate for 20 years, he already knows what the person needs, and it's very easy. Like it's out. Everybody has a fear of rejection. I have a fear of rejections. I just have the tools to overcome it because I've been doing this for much longer.
Right.
So when somebody comes in, that person better be trained by a professional, like let's just say you with NLP, like NLP, senior prac, and all of that, that helps people overcome the fear of rejection, not because they asked for it, but they don't know what to ask for
Yep.
when they're just getting started. So it's on the leader of the team, my opinion, to foresee the challenges that the person is going to have, and then supply them with tools, people, coaches, trainers, whatever you need to overcome them before they become real challenges. Like if somebody comes in right now on my team, I don't have a team, but if I restarted my team, like I would, first thing that I would deal with is everything that's going to get in their way of being successful.
Absolutely. And kind of going back to your conversation around leadership and management. So in my ideal world, this is how it kind of relates. Is a leader is someone who builds so much trust with the people that they're leading that the people will go on a journey with them and they'll leverage their trust because they don't have enough on themselves to go on that journey. And part of a leader's responsibility is to create really strong processes that people can trust in the leader, in the processes, and each other. And those processes is where the management part comes in to develop the processes. And the leadership comes back in again to get people to be self accountable to follow those processes without somebody having to babysit them. And I think that's why management has gotten such a bad rap is, oh, we want them to be magical, that we don't need these processes. No, you need a process that you need a good process. And through actually doing the process is where you figure out what the kinks are, you improve the process, and then you kind of embed that in your bones. This is how you get a high performance team, is that process is internalized. And where you've got a bad team is where you don't train them properly. The process changes and you change your goals because you know what you're doing. And then there's not trust in the processes of the leader. And then you have like a mess.
Very, very well said. That happens all the time. I think all in the context of this leadership conversation. See, the only thing I add to that is I look like most people look at leadership and management as a concept. To me, it's all skill. See, it's
Yep.
leadership skills, it's management skills, it's training skills. By the way, next to skills, you can put processes, to your point. Love that, right? So there's so many folks, and this goes beyond real estate, That I would say that's how organizations fail, is when it's all based on leadership skills. Now, don't get me wrong, leadership skills are very important. There's only so far you can go, but that's where some folks spend so much time in vision casting, in inspiration. They try to become Tony Robbins, right? And they forget the management skills and the management processes and the training skills and the training processes that all work together. Is as a leader, you got to have all three or have access to all three. Like, look, I know for a fact my management skills and management processes were weak. So what did
Yep.
I do? Is I brought people that naturally had higher level or more training in management skills and management processes, right? When it comes to training, mindset training, that's the last thing I would want to get into. That's why we have professionals like yourself, right? It's like, I don't have to become an expert in it, but I know where to go. And when people, leaders in any organization, especially in real estate, when they focus too much on that soft kind of stuff,
Yep.
and they forget that the rubber meets the road on the hard stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's the mindset piece allows people to execute on the process with more enthusiasm and certainty.
Yeah,
But you could have the most motivated people in the world, if they don't know the right process, they're not going to get anywhere.
they won't. And then you're constantly in business, not in helping people achieve stuff or in helping people take action, which is how we got to this, right? But rather in inspiring and motivating. Now, it's important, it's all a part of that, right? But as a real estate leader, you're in business of serving your buyers and sellers and investors. And you want
Yep.
to align yourself, like the people on the team have to understand that that's the case. And so when an agent doesn't take action, the leader, first place they look at should, in my opinion, is look in the mirror. Is, where did I fail in helping them understand what may get in the way? I loved talking to people, still do, in terms of like, okay, so you want, so not only do you want this, by the way, people confuse, this is one thing I learned on this journey, is people confuse goals with hopes and dreams.
Right. So
See,
tell me
when somebody,
how do they confuse those?
well, uh, so let's say, let's pick Nancy. You know, what's your goal for 2022? Oh, I want to make 100,000. Oh, okay. And how much did you make last year? 32. Okay, great. Okay, I understand. So right there, I'm starting to inspect their goals, right? Okay, and Nancy, tell me what will happen when you make 100 grand. Blah 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 blah. Okay, that's great. So I can see that that's important to you. But let me ask you this, Nancy. If you made 90 this year instead of 100, would you be happy? Oh
Yes, I
yeah,
will.
yeah, I made 32. What if you made 80? Yeah, yeah, that'd be amazing. I just made 32. Let me ask you this. What if you made 53? Well, dude, that's almost double of last year. I'd be all right. Okay, so let me ask you this. What if you made 40? Well, blah, blah, blah. Let me ask you this. At which point would you be looking for a full-time job? Oh, if I made anything less than last year. So like right there in this like 30-second, 60-second conversation, I inspect the goals to figure out like what does the person, how much is the person actually willing to take action? Because action between making 32 and action between making 100 is very different. And it's
Absolutely.
no surprise where people are like, man, they told me, and I talked to team leaders, like I just talked to my colleagues in the Midwest, a very large team, and it's kind of like, man, like they're just not doing it. And I'm like, dude, what are their goals? Well, they tell me they want to make 100, and I'm like, hey, how much did they make? Well, they sold 3 houses in the first quarter. I'm like, okay, tell me about their income. Well, they're on pension. I'm like, no, their goal is not 100 grand.
Their
Their
hope
goal
is.
is not 100 grand. You are expecting them to take actions in line with a 100 grand goal. They have a 30K goal, and
Yep.
they're taking. they're on track.
So let me tell you why I love that. So we go back to intent again. Like your intent is not to humiliate the person. Your intent is to get them to get an epiphany themselves. Because this whole exercise isn't about you getting the right person hired, because you can have a sense of that. My hypothesis is your intention is for them to realize, wait a minute, no, this is not something I, I will kill for to get. This is more like a wish, which is a huge gift to people. And sometimes when people realize it's a wish, then all of a sudden they have to go back and rethink and go, no, I think I really want to do this. What would I need to do? And most people are going to go, you're right. I should stay in my job and not do this. But that's also part of leadership. Is leadership isn't telling people. It's oftentimes getting them to get their own epiphany.
Yeah.
And if they can get their own epiphany, it becomes real and they take action on it versus, yes, you said that, I'm going to go for it. Thoughts, comments?
Amen. And look, as a leader, um, as a leader of a team, I get to discriminate based on, I know it's a strong word, but I get to discriminate on who is next to me.
Right,
See, so many people let in people into their tribe, into their team, into whatever you call it, right? And they don't have clarity on why those people are with them, and so they cannot have clarity on how to get to where they're going, and then they throw their hands up and people leave in disgust. Okay, so we cannot discriminate on sex, on creed, on like color, like all of that, right? But we can discriminate on goals. and see
absolutely.
and see if I am building an organization that's going to help 1,000 clients in a year. Okay, I want people next to me that have goals that are in line with that.
Right,
Okay, and if somebody wants to be part time and just make some extra money selling houses, that's great. There, like I can, there's no judgment on it, but that's just not the place. This is not the place for that. There's
right.
plenty, and I may say, like, look, that's amazing. I think your grandkids or I think your kids are going to benefit. Like, $3 grand a month is going to be amazing for them. This is just not the environment for that. But let me recommend you go here, or let me recommend you go there. People are so grateful when you tell them what you can or cannot help them with. And by the way, that goes back to, one of the questions that you asked early is like, the answer was is, oftentimes team leaders or leaders of teams lie to themselves when it comes to values. They also
Right.
lie to themselves and in turn to other people on what it is that they want. And
Absolutely.
before they know it, they have something that they don't want. Well, no kidding, because you weren't clear on what you wanted.
Absolutely. So, Vlad, before we part company, what is a mind hack that you would recommend that would help people be more efficient, be happier, be more successful? What's one simple technique that you use that's really effective?
Talk it out with someone. So oftentimes, especially top producers, talk to themselves and run
Yes.
ideas by themselves. Okay, and then first of all, I think it's kind of
So, you
weird,
know
but
what's genius about that and stupid about that at the same time? That you can have a performer like that can talk to themselves and come up with a dumb decision, but they can talk with a colleague and the colleague will not say a word because they're saying the same things out loud. All of a sudden they get their own epiphany. It's like, and they know the answer. So I'm not sure how that works because we said the same things, one internally, one with another human present, and we get insights externally as opposed to internally. Any idea why that works?
Umar, I don't, but I do know that one of the it, it, let me that, and I'm just formulating an opinion on this because I have not asked myself that question,
Yeah.
but it's like And by the way, this is an example of that, right? Like
Right.
what I just mentioned is is the way I would edit what I said is talk to a person that you know that's going to be a sounding board. It's going to be a sounding board and not
Mhm.
a parrot.
Absolutely, 100%. And here's why I think it works is that we have a set of rules that we run our lives through. Most of them are unconscious. And one
Mhm.
of those rules is when you're talking out loud to someone else, another human being, is that you're looking at it from a different lens. When it's internal, you got a different lens and everything sounds rosy and wonderful. And when you go the other one, it's not that you're smarter, you're just using a different set of rules unconsciously come out and you go, oh, I used to do tech support for Hewlett Packard. And sometimes I was a genius. And this is what I did. The person called in, I said, hello. And as they're telling the problem, they would go, oh, and they'd solve it themselves. And they thought I was genius. I didn't do anything other than say hello. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's overlooked and really powerful. So on the project, Vlad, what makes you happy?
Oh my God, that was such an awesome start. Um, the first thing they came up to me, and I'm gonna have a list, but the first thing is wrestling with my 6 year old.
I love it.
It like I've been blessed with three girls. I joke that God has a sense of humor. Luckily, so do I. But like my 6 year old. She loves roughhousing, and like sometimes she like I don't know, just like the laughter and giggling, and when I tickle her, just puts an automatic smile on my face. It brings a totally different energy.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Vlad. Here's why it's a joy having you on the show is there's always strategic thinking, simple, actionable advice that people can listen to and start using right away. Thank you so much.
Look, thank you for allowing me to make a contribution to your listeners. I know, look, you're way past 200 episodes. It's like the difference that you've been making with sales professionals and real estate professionals, but nothing short of amazing. Obviously, I know some of the people that you work with and made a difference. So it's an honor, and thank you.
We'll see you on episode 3 together.
Can't wait.